Hi, I'm Stephanie Rozzo. Welcome to Nature Sketch Creates Bornean Orangutan step-by-step painting instructions video. In this video, I'll be showing you how to paint a Bornean orangutan using the Nature Sketch Creates step-by-step painting instructions. First, collect all your materials and make sure they're ready to go. Remember, this is just a sketch. Relax, have fun, take your time, and don't worry too much if you think you made a mistake. Let's get started. Step 1, transfer the image to the watercolor paper. First, tape the transfer image, put a little tape on the top and the side so it doesn't cover any of the lines, to the back of the watercolor paper. And place the graphite transfer paper light side up, dark side down, in between the watercolor paper and the transfer image. Then you're ready to get started. You can trace over all the lines. Don't worry too much about getting them exact. This is just a sketch. And you can also redefine them a little bit later with the ink lines and even with the watercolor paint. After you've transferred a few lines, go ahead and check to make sure that the lines have transferred properly. You want to use about a medium pressure, and it can be a little darker than this. Just make sure it's not too light so that you can still see it for the last step. So go ahead and continue to transfer those lines by tracing over them with a medium pressure. And you don't have to do this all in one sitting. You can get up and put it to the side if you get interrupted by anything at all, or if you run out of time. And make sure you just relax, put on some music, an audiobook, or maybe a podcast. And transfer all those lines. You can flip this up and down a few times to check for missed marks. I always miss a few. Anything you don't catch in this step, checking, you can always add in just by drawing it in later. The best way to add the common name is just to outline it and then just draw in the scientific name. You can also add the hole punch lines if you like, but I'm going to leave them off for framing. I can always add them later if I change my mind. Make sure you double check that all the lines have transferred, and once they have, you can remove the graphite transfer paper and save it for later. It can be reused over and over and over and over. And then gently remove the tape from the back of the watercolor paper. I like to save the tape to reuse as much as I can. So I'll set that aside, and then I'll also keep this transfer image to protect my watercolor paper while I'm painting from smudges from my hand or anything else, drips. And then you can go ahead and remove some of the marks by using the kneaded eraser. If you have any unwanted graphite marks or anything was a little too dark, you can just rub the eraser over that. I think I like where my graphite lines are. I like how dark they are. So I'm going to leave it just like that. And now you can move on to step 2. Step 2, paint in the wettest, lightest layer of the orangutan ochre. So you take 2 drops of 31H red oxide. Make sure you mix it well. Make sure you mix all of these paints well. Some of the paint pigment does settle. If you don't get all the paint pigment mixed in, it's okay. These are very, very highly concentrated paints and they'll still turn out great. Then add 5 drops of the 14H yellow ochre. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Move this a little bit so that I can protect my painting from the paint. And by squeezing the barrel of my water brush, I'm going to add some water and mix this up. I'm going to use A, which is the wettest, least concentrated color of the orangutan ochre. So I'll pull, once I mix that up with a little bit of water, I'll go ahead and pull a little bit more to the side. Looks like this color is congealed a little bit, but I think I can just mix it in, so come up with a good color. Each of these pigments act just a slightly different way. I'll add more water just here to the side so that I have a more concentrated, drier, darker color and a lighter, wetter color as well. And you can add water just by taking water from your cup if you have a regular paintbrush. And test that on your test strip. Looks like the right color to me. So I'm going to add that to the entire orangutan and to the branches as well. So I'm going to start at the upper left. I'm going to decide whether I want to use this or not since I'm going over the entire image. And I'm just going to apply a light wash or just single layer over the entire thing. Making sure to dab it onto my towel before applying it to my painting to control the amount of paint and the amount of water going onto my paper. I'm picking up paint whenever I need it. Once you've added that layer of paint, go ahead and let it dry and move on to step 3. Paint in the orangutan brownish gray. Take 1 drop of the 21H sepia. Again, make sure it's well mixed. 1 drop. And 2 drops of the 31H red oxide. One, 2. Go ahead and add some water with your brush. You can pull a little bit aside because we're going to use the wettest, lightest color. And that means it has the most water added to it and it's not as concentrated with the pigment or the paint pigment. Test it out on your test strip. And you're going to use that color C to add it to the orangutan's arms, body, and legs as seen in step 3's image. And it's the lighter of the 2 washes, and make sure you just dab it off onto your towel in between. It doesn't need to be exactly the same as the picture, just in general. If you ever have too much paint on your brush, you can dab it off onto your towel at any time. That will lighten the color that you're applying to your paper. When you have that color painted in, you'll want to paint in D, which is a slightly drier, so not quite as much water added, a little bit more concentrated but less concentrated than E. And you can test that out on your test strip again. It looks like a pretty good color to me. And then add it in to the fingers, toes, and head, as you see in step 3. I painted over the whole ear here, and in the image in step 3 there's a little bit left blank, and that's okay. This is just a sketch. It doesn't have to be exactly right. Once you're done, you can move on to step 4 and make sure you let it dry before adding any more paint. Step 4, paint in the drier, darker ochre on the branches and the wettest, lightest orangutan red. So first, mix the orangutan red by adding 1 drop of the 21H sepia, and 16 drops of the red oxide. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Mix up this color by adding some water to it. I'll be using F, which is the wettest of this color. So once you have the pigment well mixed with a little bit of water, just pull some to the side and add lots of water to water it down and create a light, wet, so lots of water added, less concentrated color. I'm going to add that to the orangutan as seen in step 4, and kind of sparingly to the face, hands, and feet. It's also a good idea to test it first, which I didn't do. Make sure to test your color. And make sure it's light enough. Then you can add some of the B color, the drier, darker, more concentrated orangutan ochre, to the branches, kind of in a spotty way, like you can see in step 4 and in your final image. And just kind of dab it in there. When you're done, let it dry and move on to step 5. Step 5, paint in a drier, darker orangutan red. So you want something in between really dry and really wet, or really concentrated and not so concentrated, or more water and less water added. So I'm mixing this color with some water, and then I'll test it out on my test strip to see. I'll be doing G. I think that looks right. I'll take some of that, dab it off onto my towel, and then apply it to my painting. And I'll use line strokes to add it to the legs and arms first, then the body, and then the head. You want to make sure you pay attention to the direction of the hair and just refer to your final image and the image in step 5. Picking up paint again, dabbing off your towel whenever you need. Once you have all the color added, you can move on to step 6. Make sure you let it dry. Step 6, add a drier, darker rectangle red and paint the brownish gray onto the branches. So take a little bit of that paint and add it H to all the same places in the same order as step 6. Make sure to pay attention to the hair direction again. So we'll add it to the legs and arms first, and then the body, and then the head. I like to start left to right and top to bottom as well. Sometimes I go all over the place. I'll just go ahead and add this in. And if you make any mistakes, don't worry. If you need to come back and add more paint at any time, you can. When you're done, add some of the orangutan brownish gray, the E, the more concentrated onto the branches. And it's pretty spotty. Just go ahead and add it in. And when you're done, go ahead and let it dry and move on to step 7. Now that this is dry, I'm going to add the black 005 micron lines. Pretty much adding the same lines you added using when you were transferring this image to the watercolor paper. So you can refer to 7A, your final reference image, and your transfer image for where those lines are going to go. So just go ahead and go through and add all those lines. Now you added all the 005 black micron lines, you can start adding the 01 lines as seen as B to write in the scientific name and add some thicker lines. I think that's it for, oh, actually. I think that's all of the 01 lines. Maybe a couple more here. I think that's all the 01 lines. And so I'll go ahead and move on to adding the 08 black micron lines, and just add those as you see in step B and your final image. Might look at it a few times and see if that's where I want all that ink to be and that I have enough paint. Again, your image might be a little bit different in color because a printer doesn't really pick up all the vibrancy of the paint. And I think I like where this is at. Again, you can add many layers of paint and ink if you like. And you'll notice my new image looks a bit different from my old. I think every time I paint the images for Nature Sketch Create, they always turn out a little bit different depending on my mood and how I'm feeling that certain day. And this is a sketch, so it doesn't need to be anything exact. And you'll find your images will be unique to you as well and how you're feeling on a given day. We're done. Great job. Thank you for joining me. I hope you had fun and relaxed a little bit. Next, you have some options. You can punch holes in this and add it to your sketchbook. You can frame it and gift it. Make sure to also add it to our Facebook fan art page. I'd love to see it. Check out the Nature Sketch Create website to shop for crates and for updates on future lessons.